The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
The Full Melt.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
Give me a break.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Welcome to another edition of the Full Melt program, live from the PetPain.com studios in suburban Detroit. Oh my goodness, let's say, look, there's a whole bunch of stuff happening in the world of marijuana as there is every single day. It is why we do the show. Note to self, you cannot wear sunglasses and headphones at the same time. So we've spruced up today's show with some more drop info. I've been digging drops all day. In fact, I think we're a couple of minutes getting late on the air here today because I was busy digging drops, not paying attention at the time. I like it. Look, there's a nasty cold crawling up in me. I got the whole head cold thing going on, the sinus infection, the upper respiratory. Yeah. So bear with my wheezing as we get through another program. There was some information that transpired at the legislative level in the U.S. government with regards to federal banking. And it's really kind of big news because it's a big problem when marijuana businesses who traditionally have high volume cash sales have to deal strictly in cash. If you can't go to the dispensary and use your debit card, your credit card, you can't write a check for your medicine because they've got no way to process that if the bank won't take your account. And incidentally, if one of these banks does take your account under current conditions, chances are they're going to charge you a lot more for that account. Just be forewarned. They view it as a risky adventure. They see it as, well, yeah, we want to have your account and we'd like to have your money in our bank because that, after all, when you put your money in the bank, if it's a savings account, if it's a checking account, the actual cash isn't, it's just a number in a ledger, right? The actual cash isn't there. They've invested your money. They've taken that money and they've invested it. That's what banks do. It's what credit unions do. They all do it. Now, they still have to have funds on hand to be able to, make your account liquid. But my point is this. The bank wants your business, but they don't want your business if you're going to take all their other accounts' money with them. If the federal government takes away their magical key to the Fed, and it is a magical key, if you don't have that key to your bank to get into the Fed to get money so that when you make a loan, you have liquidity to, honor the loan, then you've got a real problem on your hands. And the bank, cherishes that key. Federal government will take it away from you. I mean, they will. They'll just say, look, you have no access to the Fed anymore. You're not a bank. You're hereby closed. Or, you've been laundering drug money. I haven't seen any closed banks, honestly. The U.S. government has no vested interest in closing banks. What they do have an interest in is enforcing federal law, which happens to, deal with, money laundering and racketeering and all the things that have to do with criminal enterprise. But if you're busy running a marijuana business in a state where medical marijuana or retail cannabis is allowed, is legal in your state, well, you're really not doing something illicit. You're doing it illicitly according to the federal government. It's still against federal law. And so there's, these little ancillary issues like the tax man, the bank man, anything that could relate to the federal government. If you're a marijuana business, you've still got all these, loose ends to tie up. And they're really loose. I mean, this is a frayed rope. You're hanging out of the part of the rope that's still bound together, that's still braided, but you're just at the fray. And if you happen to slip down a little bit, you haven't got much to grasp onto before the rope is gone, right? Businesses depend on money. They depend on money to pay their bills, to pay their employees, to keep the shop open. Taxman wants to shut you down. Taxman says, according to the federal courts in the tax code, you got to pay 90%. That's 90% tax on your income. It's considered ill-gotten gains. Got to work with the tax guys. Right now, there's some stuff happening at the Senate level. And I think the Senate has approved this. They passed it, if I'm not mistaken. I did not have a chance to read the story. We've been really, really busy. I've been fostering a dog, and the dog just took off. I've saved it from the streets of Detroit. Dog just went off to get shots and neutered and all that stuff. Somebody came and picked him up and brought him here. And then, I've been fostering him for about a week or so, taking him on walks and all that stuff. Dog just took off to go get treated at the vet. He's got all kinds of stuff to do at the vet. So, and the lady that came to pick up the dog, his name is Woody, by the way, Woody the dog. He's a pitty. He's a blue-nosed pitty. Pitbull. So he's a beautiful dog, and he's not aggressive, and I love animals. So we had to take care of Woody today. I don't know how that got mixed up in the federal banking business. But in the grander scheme of things, boy, it ramped right up to the beginning of the show. I'll tell you, that lady didn't, she had to take the dog for a walk real quick, et cetera, et cetera. And then pretty soon, here's the show. Whoa, wait, but 10 minutes into the show, that's what happens. Sometimes that happens. I try not to let it happen, but sometimes I have to admit to you, it does happen. So the business with the federal banking laws, U.S. Senate Appropriations Committee voting 16-14 late last week in favor of an amendment to allow state-compliant marijuana businesses to engage in relationships with financial institutions. Jeff Merkley, he's a Democrat of Oregon, and Patty Murray, Murray, I guess it is, a Democrat of Washington, sponsored this bill. The amendment to the Financial Services and General Government Appropriations Bill prohibits the U.S. Treasury Department from using federal funds to take punitive actions against banks that provide services to marijuana-related businesses that are operating legally under state laws. Now, that vote is marking the first time that members of the U.S. Congress, and this is the historical note on this is the bell ringer, have decided in favor of amending federal law to permit marijuana-related businesses access to banks and other financial institutions. We have to get Boehner and the House in on this. Remember, John Boehner's from a conservative East Coast, state. I mean, John Boehner has no interest, probably. And he's going to be on the Christie side, I have a feeling. If you talk to John Boehner, he'll tell you that marijuana is illegal. Please write John Boehner and your House members. Can you call them? Can you take 10 minutes out of your day to call these people and ask them to change this? Because all these businesses in all these states, there's 4 of them, one of them representing, the premier place where marijuana business is taking place in this country, Denver, Colorado. That's the epicenter inside Colorado, isn't it, Denver? It's not a big populous state, but it's a big resort state. A lot of people go and visit Colorado. Not a lot of people live there. I mean, it's partly desert, it's partly mountainous, it's partly, seasonal. It is all seasonal there. But if you're in one of these states and you're doing business, especially in Colorado, and you're doing all cash business, you're putting people at risk. The people going into those pot shops that have to deal in cash, they could get robbed coming and going. Hey, he's going to that pot shop. Go get his money. Same thing with they could be targeted while they're inside the pot shop while it's getting robbed. You got to have, safes. You got to have a bunch of guys running around in security uniforms with guns and stuff, moving stuff around, bringing product in, bringing money out. If that's all going into one big cash deposit, and mind you, that stuff should be counted at the local level, transported safely, but it shouldn't be that all people have to do business in cash. You should be able to use your debit or credit card. You should be able to write a check if the business wanted to accept checks. People like to kite checks a lot. The point is that if you take the cash out of the business and you use other methods of, transporting money around electronically, it makes the business a lot safer. If you had to, especially with gas prices when they were up near, $4.50, those gas stations were getting robbed routinely because a lot of people were paying with cash. But you could imagine how it would be. I mean, they were getting robbed in cities that, didn't have good police departments or they, preoccupied with pot. Hey, they're chasing down the pot guy. Don't worry about the gas station getting robbed up the street. I just don't get it. It's time that we educate these legislators. It really is. I think they're already educated. I think they see what's coming down the pike. But if you don't nudge them along, if you don't give them a reason, they will find a way out. And let's not do that. You've got to be able to use debit, credit card. These businesses deserve to be able to use banking services like any other business. And as this progresses in the coming election, both this year and next, I got to get into the Responsible Ohio thing. I don't even know what to think about all of that mess. It's so bad in Responsible Ohio, the whole Ohio mess with legalizing marijuana there, retail, medical, whatever, the whole kit and caboodle. It's now getting confused by the press. But as these states come on board, they need to be able to look at other states that are doing this securely. Because this is another reason not to come on board as a state. It's another reason for a state to go, you know what, until the federal government gets its act together and says we'll let you do banking, it's too risky in our state to let people have marijuana businesses because it's all in cash. It's just going to be a big risk. And you don't want to give those guys any excuses. It's all about removing the excuses. Because there's a lot of lame-ass excuses lying about everywhere about cannabis and why it shouldn't be available to responsible adults in this country. Oh, we go on the other side and talk about Ohio and try and untangle that caboodie next on the program.
You're getting the full melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. 571.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with Max Power monster aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dordt Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
This is a test of the emergency bong hit system. This is only a test. This is a test of the emergency bong hit system. The bong hitters in your area, in voluntary defiance of federal, state, and local authorities, have developed this system to keep you informed in the event of a bong hit emergency. If this had been an actual emergency, the attention signal you just heard would have been followed by official supply information, police scanner news, and emergency bong hitting instructions. This concludes this test of the emergency bong hit system.
You cursed rat! Look what you've done! I'm melting! Melting!
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
Oh, that ugly witch. She needed to melt anyways. She was after that little dog. I like the dog. Leave the dog alone, you know? Columbus, Ohio, according to the Cannabis, says a campaign to legalize marijuana for medical and recreational use in Ohio submitted more signatures Thursday as it tries to get the issue before fall voters. Organizers for Responsible Ohio say they gathered about 96,000 additional signatures. They needed, I think, 29 and some change. It's 29,509 they needed. The state had required at least 305,591 signatures. They've gathered an additional 96,000 after turning in over 750,000, having them discounted. The reason they needed the additional 29,509 is because that's how many they fell short. They were under 300,000 signatures by about 25 grand. Secretary of State John Husted's office must now verify the 95,572 supplemental signatures and determine whether the proposal qualifies for the ballot. The group's signatures have been subject to increasing scrutiny and sparring. Responsible Ohio claimed that it had initially turned in more than 695,000 petition signatures, though Husted's office said earlier this month it had received fewer signatures and found thousands were invalid. Responsible Ohio says it expects to challenge the evaluation of signatures that were tossed out and others that were not counted. When you go out and you spend a lot of money to collect signatures, and believe me, these guys spent, they got a war chest of about $20 million. Boy, I wish MI Legalize had $20 million. We're doing it the cheap way here. But we're getting it done. In other news, in Ohio, the elections chief named a special investigator on Wednesday to review what he calls significant disparities in marijuana legalization groups' ballot petitions and said he is subpoenaing the campaign's director. In another development, Attorney General Mike DeWine on Wednesday rejected the petition summary for the Ohio Medical Cannabis Amendment, which seeks to legalize marijuana for medical use in 2016. The announcement by Secretary of State John Husted is the latest show of force by the state's Republican power brokers against Responsible Ohio. The group seeks to place a constitutional amendment on the November ballot that would mark one of the nation's most significant leaps in marijuana policy, taking Ohio from a complete prohibition against cannabis use to legalization for both medical and recreational use. Husted said the special investigator, David Bowers, will explore why significant numbers of petition signatures collected by Responsible Ohio were invalid and some physical forms didn't match electronic copies. I don't know what that means. Electronic copies? I don't know. That's strange to me. I really would like to delve into, ask somebody about that. I don't have a chance to yet. If such discrepancies are a product of fraud, they're subject to criminal penalties up to a fifth-degree felony. As with every possible case of election fraud, it's my responsibility to investigate and hold accountable anyone who may have cheapened the voice of all Ohioans by cheating the system, he said in a statement. Husted also said he had planned to subpoena Responsible Ohio Executive Director Ian James and records from his consulting firm, the Strategy Network. James said in a statement that Responsible Ohio followed the law and brought the discrepancies cited by Husted to his office's attention. Responsible Ohio legal counsel Andy Douglas, a former Ohio Supreme Court justice, said Husted, quote, will have to answer for, quote, his treatment of the campaign. Instead of working with us and addressing the problems within his office and at the county boards of election, Secretary Husted has slapped us with a subpoena meant to silence us and chill any future opposition, Douglas said in a statement. He even deputized a former prosecutor to investigate us, then bragged about his past success gaining convictions, all in a further attempt to frighten, harass, and silence us. Earlier this month, Husted found about 276,000 of the initial 695,000 signatures Responsible Ohio submitted were valid. The group faces a midnight Thursday deadline, for which they managed to submit apparently another, 95,000 signatures. Prior to that declaration, Huston had issued a warning to county election boards, urging them to take special care in reviewing the marijuana petitions for fear of problems. The campaign offered the opportunity to register to vote for those who were unregistered but wanted to sign petitions. Huston said an alarming number of those registrations were faulty. Fraud and sloppiness have more in common than being the devastating cause of undermining voter confidence, Huston said. They are illegal and will not be tolerated by my office. Before its summer break, the Republican-controlled legislature authorized a competing ballot measure that would effectively block the legislation effort by banning the cartel-like setup that establishes 10 privately run growing sites statewide. So, I was reading an article earlier today about Ohio, because there's a bunch of them, talking about all the same stuff. They were so confused. The reporter doing this story was so confused that they were mixing the campaigns up. Like, they were saying that, they were trying to say that, at least in the way that it was spelled out, the way that I read it, is that the people at Responsible Ohio somehow had their ballot language in challenge now. Now, it's already been approved. Mike DeWine, the Attorney General of the state, was a former legislator there, longtime legislator, since in the mid-'90s at least, when I was there reporting out of Cleveland. Mike DeWine, I've seen him in the elevator all the time. Hey, Mike, how's it going? Capitol beat, city beat in Cleveland was my, I had a city council beat there as a reporter, and sometimes they'd send me down to Columbus with big stuff. Met Haley Barber, the big rotund. He was the former Republican National Congress chairman. Haley Barber from Missouri, who incidentally just imprisoned somebody for 12 years. 12 years mandatory, no parole for an importation of marijuana charge. This is a very conservative state. They don't like the idea, these conservatives in Ohio, of marijuana anything. They don't. The legislators there are not for this at all. It's clear. They've managed to do decriminalization some years ago, like 20 years ago. Up to, 100 grams? I think you get up to 100 grams. And it's pretty much a ticket. You still got it. You're going to probably take your pot from you, but you're going to go pay a fine, and that's going to be that. And frankly, that's how most states should be, during the Prohibition times. They all should be like that. Because if you're one of these states or, any place that's putting somebody in jail over a little personal weed, you're just wasting your money. I mean, you might as well put people in jail for toenail clippings because they're everywhere. Especially around here for some reason. Stupid dog. If you're gonna, do you want to spend your tax dollars on putting those guys in jail? Because there's nothing wrong with them. Most of them are productive members of society, have a job, have kids, have a family, have the picket fence, the whole 9 yards, pay a mortgage. They got that big car note, truck note, a boat. This is everyday middle-class America uses cannabis on a regular basis. And it's those people that the government's targeted to take their stuff away. And that's really what the police have gotten hooked on. And, being that, I think the Republican Party is very hawkish, very police-oriented, very military-oriented, very hawkish. They want to see it taken down. They want the letter of the law enforced. Nothing wrong with enforcing the letter of the law. What I'm saying is the letter of the law is screwed. It's unenforceable. It's been proven unenforceable. For the past 70 years, it's been proven unenforceable, especially since 1970, the past 40 years. 40 plus years. when the Controlled Substance Act was created. So in Ohio, so these guys were, this news story was mixing these things up, confusing stuff. And I would say that if the reporters of the state, and they're all pretty good, they're all, for the most part, these are all good reporters at these newspaper publications, radio and TV stations. Problem is that it's hard to make heads or tails of this. The newspaper reporter gets an assignment, they give him all the facts and all the, the rundown on what's this and what's that. Go out and talk to this guy. There's a news conference out there, or some guy's holding some meeting about something. Go out and cover it. And then, somewhere in the jumble of all this pile of crap, they mixed all the stories up. Oh, somebody's going to get in trouble for that, especially the editor. The reporter comes back and he writes a story or puts together a package for radio or television. There's a news editor somewhere that's looking over all that stuff before it hits air. And so how the news editor who made the story assignment and then the reporter who went out and gathered the information based on what the editor gave him mixes it all up and jumbles it together, drags it back and says, hey, news at 11. It's all jumbled up. How could the editor mix facts that willingly, that freely? Unabashed shame is what they should have. Unbridled shame. If you're a journalist, at least get your facts straight. But these two stories that I read you about Ohio have their facts straight. So what's going on there now? So you've got this other competing ballot petition that is not OTEP, the Ohioans to End Prohibition. It's not them. It's another group that said that Mike DeWine said, no, they tried to submit ballot language in Mike DeWine. The Attorney General says, no, this is messed up. This doesn't represent the thing that you're running around collecting signatures with, the thing that's going to be on the ballot, the little clip that kind of gives the synopsis of what the bill represents or what the legislation represents, what the initiative means, is incorrect. It doesn't represent the actual initiative. There are some discrepancies between the little brief and the actual language. And that's part of what a legislative oversight in the state governments do when you do this ballot petition process. Various states have different procedures as to who gets to approve that ballot language. Here in Michigan, the Secretary of State's involved. I think the Legislative Service Bureau's involved. They look it over to make sure that everything is golden, that there's no confusion, that there's no, impropriety, that nobody's trying to pull a rug, that nobody's lying to you so that you can really sign something else into law. Because that is their responsibility. They got to make sure that what's going on in the election is legit. What's showing up on the ballot is legit. And so they're doing that. But, you don't want to confuse them. Ohioans to End Prohibition had their ballot language approved a long time ago. They're actively collecting signatures there. I'm rooting for OTEP. They have the best platform there in Ohio, if you ask me. Frankly, I'm on board with everybody else. Whatever you can get to the ballot and get elected in, do it. You've got decrim. Some people would argue that Responsible Ohio's plan, threatens decrim, because the part that you can get ticketed for instead of being 100 grams is reduced to, I think, an ounce, 28 grams. Before you could have almost 4 ounces. Now you can only have 28. I don't know. It's confusing to me. And I'm going to step back and let it all twist and squirm and turn and see what hatches out of that papa. I mean, that chrysalis needs to hatch. What kind of butterfly is coming out after that caterpillar built his cocoon? Because right now I can't tell what, when you look at the caterpillar, you can't tell what kind of butterfly or what kind of moth is going to come out when that thing, does its transformation. Might be beautiful, might be ugly as sin, might not even be a butterfly or a moth. Might be something you didn't expect. Something might go in there and eat that thing and hatch out spiders. You don't know. And that's why I'm standing back and going, okay, I don't know if it's pretty, I don't know if it's ugly, but when you guys get something to the ballot, I'll stand behind it. I'm rooting for OTEP, like I said. In Michigan, the MCC wants to do. They want to do legalization too, but they want to have the legislature write all the rules. That's the deal there. And I guess if we had a legislature that, wasn't twisted about this, that wasn't paid off about this, that wasn't trying to get their own greasy, grubby hooks into whatever they could, get their friends involved. This is all, politics is all local, isn't it? And if your uncle, he's not you. If you're a legislator and your uncle wants to get into the dispensary business, wants to get into the grow business, wants to get into the distribution business, packaging, medibles, whatever it is. These guys are going to try and, if they can, if you got the legislature writing it, restrict things and make access available to their buddies rather than to everybody. Because they've been paid to do that. Somebody gave them some money along the way. God, I wish you could lock these people up and prove the tit for tat going on. Because there's a lot of tit for tat happening. The government's gotten so corrupt, it seems to turn a blind eye on its own corruption. So OTEP's working on getting their signatures together for next year. RO is trying to get this on the ballot this year. Now they're in the process of going through the additional 95,000 plus signatures, 96,000 signatures, meant to overcome the 30,000 shortfall. You say tomato, I say tomato. In the long run, Ohio will get their crap together. Something will show up on either this year or next year or both's fall ballot. It would be very strange if OTEP collected enough signatures before RO gets their ballot initiative done. And one of the scenarios that would be most interesting is if the people vote down the legislative attempt to shoot down Responsible Ohio's monopoly thing through the Constitution for those 10 grows. If the people shoot that down and vote RO in, and then also OTEP has collected enough signatures before the fall election, before they actually vote that in, to get it on next year's election, you've already got a legalization effort in place, and then next year another one comes along.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with max power monster aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
It's not easy out there, but it can be easier. And when it comes to medical marijuana in Michigan and chronic pain management, Dr. Bob Townsend, renowned for his patient advocacy and deep understanding of how patients and medical marijuana certifications fit together, makes it his hallmark to educate and provide the best holistic treatment for your condition. His knowledgeable staff makes you feel warm and welcome, and Dr. Bob makes you feel well. With locations across the state in Cadillac and Gaylord, Kalamazoo, Marquette, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Saginaw, Traverse City, you can't beat the convenience and feeling you get knowing you have someone on your side that cares. Denali Healthcare is on the web at denalihealthcaremi.com. Get answers to your holistic health questions or schedule an appointment now by calling 989-339-4464. Chronic pain management and holistic health answers is what they do. It's all they do. DenaliHealthcareMI.com. Get your certification and peace of mind now by making an appointment with Dr. Bob Townsend at 989-339-4464. Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Alkaline water, herbal remedy, essential oil,
Sacred Elements.
natural and organic shampoo, lotion, pain cream, bath salt,
Sacred Elements.
beeswax candles and handmade crafts, canes and walking sticks, artwork, jewelry, and repurposed goods.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dort Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
All right, everybody, it's 420. You know what that means. It's National High Time. Time to get your smoking utensils out and spark up. Everybody ready? Here we go.
Check it out.
Cool. It's the Full Melt Radio Show. You can hear us here Monday through Friday from 7 until 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Really easy to subscribe to the Full Melt program. Go to thefullmelt.com, click on the iTunes link, and subscribe. The war on drugs is over, and weed won. This according to NewYorkMag.com. This is New York, the magazine. The organization designed to plant a deep-seated fear of drugs in the minds of every late 20th century middle schooler published an op-ed calling for marijuana legalization. That's Drug Abuse Resistance Education Project DARE. Written by former Deputy Chief Carlos McDermott in response to a letter in the Columbus Dispatch, the op-ed explains that it's impossible for law enforcement to control the sale of marijuana to minors. People like me and other advocates of marijuana legalization are not totally blind to the harms that drugs pose to children, McDermott writes. We just happen to know that legalizing and regulating marijuana will actually make everyone safer. He continues. Anyone who suggests we outlaw everything dangerous to children would also have to ban stairs, Tylenol, bleach, forks, and outlet sockets, and definitely alcohol. Those things harm children every day. But everyone championing that we ban them would be laughed at. I support legalization precisely because I want to reduce youth's drug use. Drug dealers don't care about a customer's age. The answer isn't prohibition and incarceration. The answer is regulation and education. Can you believe this? It's breaking news. This just came out 2 hours ago. I mean, to me, this is large. The war on drugs is over, and weed won. DARE, the organization designed to plant a deep-seated fear of drugs in the minds of every late 20th century middle schooler, published an op-ed calling for marijuana legalization. That sentence should be enshrined, put on a plaque, and sent to Kevin Sabet. It should also be duly noted by people like our Attorney General and others who I believe have a hearkening view towards marijuana legalization. At least from this standpoint, you can understand, according to an article, that the DEA's new boss has finally said, because Michelle Leonhardt wouldn't say it, the new female head of the DEA, the DEA's new boss, being the Attorney General, acting DEA Administrator Chuck Rosenberg, acknowledging that that marijuana is, quote, probably not, and, quote, as dangerous as heroin, a concession that that's almost revelatory, given the hardline stance of his predecessors. Let me say it this way. I'd rather be in a car accident going 30 miles an hour than 60 miles an hour, but I'd prefer not to be in a car accident at all, Rosenberg said Tuesday morning, adding that he's not an expert, quote unquote. He's also confirmed that the agency is going to focus on what he termed the biggest and most important cases, quote unquote, which typically involve opioids, cocaine, and methamphetamines. Of course, stating that marijuana probably isn't as dangerous as heroin is like saying ceiling fans probably aren't as loud as jet engines. Recent studies have confirmed that marijuana is much less dangerous than alcohol or tobacco, never mind hard substances like cocaine or heroin. The DEA may still be far behind the science on marijuana's effects, but Rosenberg's comments still show some small progress at the agency. His predecessor, Michelle Lienhart, was almost fanatical in her opposition to marijuana as the agency's administrator, and her opposition remained steadfast despite increasing acceptance of the drug's recreational use. The signature moment of her tenure came shortly after President Obama expressed his views on legalization in an interview with The New Yorker. The president gave his support to state-level legalization and claimed that marijuana was less harmful than alcohol on an individual basis. Lienhart quickly contradicted those views in a speech to the Sheriff's Association, and it got her fired. A few months later, another wave of states voted to legalize marijuana for recreational use. Lienhart resigned in May. Technically, she resigned. I'll bet she was asked to leave. Leaving in the wake of a poorly handled sex scandal and criticism regarding her stance on legalization. And while Rosenberg's open mind is refreshing, this progress could prove temporary. The agency's direction regarding marijuana policy will likely depend on the stance of whoever becomes the next president. And speaking of which, this leads me to the other story about good old Christie. Good old Krispy Kreme Christie wants to double down his. So Sanjay Gupta doubles down on weed and then triples down. Christie does the opposite. Doubles down on his "we're taking your pot away." I don't want to pick. I don't want to pick on people for their personal issues. And Christie definitely has some personal issues, amongst them weight and overcoming its issues. There are a lot of issues with people with weight. There are a lot of issues. I mean, to me, somebody like Christie who shows no. I mean, this is a guy who's had lap band surgery. He's had this laparoscopic band put on his stomach to make it tinier in an effort to force himself into not eating so much. And when you look, to me, when you want to become a presidential candidate, not only should you be healthy. How does Christie get through? Is that thing metal? Does he get through can he fit through the airport screening thing? Does it go off? I don't think so. I think it's plastic. Show some self-restraint, for crying out loud there, Christie. I mean, honestly, nobody in the history of anything has made a claim that somehow cupcakes are medicinal. That somehow you must have your Haagen-Dazs or you'll be vomiting. Sometimes when you have the Haagen-Dazs and you vomit, that's a problem. Especially if you vomit to make room for more cupcakes and Haagen-Dazs. I'm not saying Christie's that guy. I'm saying he isn't throwing up. I'm saying that he has no self-restraint with his own weight issues. Zero self-control. Now, if you don't have self-control with something in your own life, what makes you such a good candidate for president, especially if you want to talk about other people and their issues? Food is not marijuana. Marijuana is not food. They represent two different things, but abuse is abuse. And you are clearly abusing food, sir. What makes you think that you can stand up on your soapbox and tell people about the use or abuse of any other thing, including cannabis? Yet I will read you some information from the article. This is Politico.com. Christie, Krispy Kreme Christie, doubling down on marijuana comments. In a Christie administration, there would be no such thing as legal marijuana use. Marijuana, quoting now, is against the law in the states, and it should be enforced in all 50 of them, the New Jersey governor said on Fox and Friends Wednesday morning. That's the law, and the Christie administration will support it. Christie's comments came the day after he discussed marijuana enforcement at a town hall in Newport, New Hampshire. If you're getting high in Colorado today, enjoy it, Christie warned. Quoting again, as of January 2017, I will enforce the federal laws, provided that I don't have a heart attack. When you take the oath of office, Christie said, you're agreeing to enforce the laws. President Barack Obama has ignored the law and looked the other way as states like Colorado and Washington have moved towards legalization, he said. This is another thing. You know, part of politics is compromise. If you want to go in and get a bill done, you might have to give up on something that you were adamant about in another thing so that you can gain somebody's support to get your bill done. That's called compromise. It's the path forward to getting your bill passed. If you want to get enough support, you might have to support something that he's got, that you need his vote. You got to support that you're against now. I'll trade you my vote for your vote. It's compromise. And I think Obama has done a tremendous job of compromising on law. Yes, he's probably, he is above. Eric Holder, the chief law enforcement officer for the country, is only headed by the president. He's a member of his cabinet. The president gets to tell the attorney general what he wants to have happen. The attorney general still has a duty, but he still is only working at behest of the president, who has ultimate control over this issue anyways. The president all by himself could reschedule marijuana, could take it off. He could allow things at the DEA and the federal level to move forward. And he's already doing this. But in the long run, I'm saying somebody like Christie shouldn't be president if he can't control his own habits. Asked if he's worried about losing voters because of the majority of young Republicans believing recreational marijuana should be legal, Christie waved away the question. If the majority really does want to legalize it, then Congress will, he said. Yeah. We can't focus on what every poll says. Hey, everybody, we can't focus on what every poll says Christie. This isn't the first time Christie has vowed to crack down on marijuana. Back in April, he told conservative radio host Hugh Hewitt it was a gateway drug. We have an enormous addiction problem in this country, Christie told Hewitt, and we need to send very clear leadership from the White House on down through federal law enforcement, he said. Medical marijuana is now legal in New Jersey, but it is, of course, tightly restricted. President Christie? I don't think so. Look, we don't want to have the new $20 bill, if you ever made it, being a picture of a donut.
You're getting the full melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Oh, no thanks. I got some store-bought right over here in my own.
No, man. This is grass.
You mean marijuana?
Yeah.
Lord have mercy. Is that what that is? Let me see that.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
My girlfriend's bitching 'cause I always sleep in.
Say if you get a chance, if you're in Michigan, head on out to Puffapalooza. It's August 8th at the Pine Hollow Golf Club. I'm not even reading. It's a Pine Hollow Golf Course. Not even reading from the ad. I've been saying this thing about the Pine Hollow Golf. I know it by heart pretty much. Tons of bands out there. It's $20. You want tickets to the event. It should be a blowout or a smoke out. It's going to be a smoke out and a blowout and a music out. We'll call it Jackson Woodstock. It's Puffapalooza. You can get tickets, find out more information, and get tickets at Puffapalooza.brownpapertickets.com. Puffapalooza.brownpapertickets.com. On to Chicago. We just left there last weekend after doing the CannaCon conference put on My Compassion. And now there's more news about dispensaries. This from ABC 7 in Chicago.
This Saturday marks 2 years since Governor Pat Quinn signed the law legalizing the use of cannabis for medical purposes. No patients have received the treatment as of yet, but people are investing millions of dollars in the medical marijuana business. Eyewitness News reporter Paul Meinke takes a closer look at one of those operations.
Out in the fields of corn north of Rochelle grows a big building. And within this building soon will grow marijuana. This is one of 18 state-licensed marijuana cultivation centers. This one, new from the ground up, is run by a firm called Pharmacanis. It has a second center in Dwight, where the growing has already started. The state does not permit cameras inside.
The patient will come in. This will be a vestibule area. There will be a wall and door that are put right here.
And this is a dispensary where qualified medical marijuana patients will buy their product. It's located in a strip mall in Ottawa and will likely be among the first dispensaries to open this fall, more than 2 years after the Compassionate Care Act was signed.
Everybody likes things to move fast, but there's just this is a brand new industry. There's a number of people, a number of groups that all need to converge together to get it up and running. And we're just growing into it right now.
Teddy Scott is a lawyer with a degree in molecular biophysics who, with his partners, saw this initially as a business opportunity, but have become fully invested in the medical need. They're also heavily invested financially to the tune of roughly $10 million. It's a gamble, especially when the number of patients signed up thus far is but a fraction of what was expected.
It is a long-term play.
There are a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of regulation. We want it done right.
Jim Champion is a vet diagnosed with MS 27 years ago. He was the first to sign up for the program and sits on its advisory board. He and his wife see it as a godsend, but they and others who rallied today want the governor to sign an extension to the 4-year pilot program. Without added time, their concern is that the licensed sellers may not regain their investments.
They could raise the prices on the patients, and then patients going to end up back on the streets in the black market, and there goes the program.
A spokesperson for the governor says he believes there's plenty of time to evaluate the program, and he doesn't favor, at this point, extending the pilot's timeline. So far, there are less than 3,000 patients enrolled in the Compassionate Care program. No ID cards have been issued yet. There are questions about the economics of it all, but the license holders are optimistic that once it's truly up and running, those enrollment numbers will meet expectations. And the rollout really begins October, November.
That's really when you can expect to see cannabis now coming in Chicago and in the greater Illinois area. Is in the fall, in October, and it's going to be a slow roll-on. Slow roll-up, a slow roll-on. It's not going to be everybody at once. These guys are being, this is how government works. This is why I'm suggesting that MCC in Michigan is not a good idea. When you let legislators do this, this is the kind of crap that happens. You see, in the Am I Legalize campaign here that we're doing in 2016 in Michigan, and it's going to happen. I'll just predict now. I'm going to stick my neck out on a branch. I'm going to go out on a branch. I'm going to stick my neck out. Well, let's not mix metaphors here, shall we? I'm going to stick my head out on a branch. Wait a minute. What is this, ISIS? I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'll say that we're going to get this done here. God, I hope we get this done here, because if we don't get this done here, it's going to be another grueling period of what the hell. And what I'm saying is, look, I just said it with Ohio. I'm for anything that gets marijuana legalized in any state, anywhere. Look, I'm not a proponent of cannabis. I'm an opponent of prohibition. There's a big difference. People, when they hear you do a pot program. What are you doing advocating pot? Nobody's advocating marijuana here. What I'm saying is that you can't put a prohibitionist message up and expect that is going to be the be-all and save-all and end-all of your issue. I think a smart adult, a smart person for that matter, should research anything before they try it. I don't care if it's candy. You need to know what you're consuming. You need to know what you're using. And you need to know it to anticipate its effects. Look, I know if I've got an empty stomach and I eat something very sugary, I'm going to get a sugar buzz going. And I really don't like a sugar buzz. I don't like it. So I don't consume lots of sugar on an empty stomach. This is an informed consumer. It's a dramatic example of informed consumer, but it's the same thing. You got to know what you're doing, and the only way that you can ensure that you know what you're doing is regulation, isn't it? This is why the alcohol prohibition message was overcome with the 14th Amendment. Because the argument was, look, it's illegal. They're going into those little, those little shops that are hidden behind the wall. They're going in there in these speakeasies, and they're having their booze, their bathtub gin, but people are going blind. Because there's no regulation, because they made that gin with something that is poisonous. They didn't make it with juniper berries. They made it with some wood. And there's a bunch of blind people running around because they drank alcohol that causes blindness. You're not going to see this as an issue with cannabis, I don't believe, but you're going to see other problems that result as a long-term effect if you don't regulate it. Pesticides are not are regulated in this country, so you don't consume them when you eat your produce. Antibiotics are regulated so that you hopefully don't consume them when you eat your meat. You are. It's a huge problem. But the regulation has minimalized it. The regulation has kept food and drugs in this country safe for eons. But if you take a segment like marijuana out of the drug group, if you take a food out of a food group and you give it special consideration and you prohibit it, guess what's going to happen? Everybody's going to go gravitate towards it. They're going to use it. It's not going to be regulated. People are going to end up getting hurt, and it's all your fault. And you took the most expensive route to get it done, the one that it requires policing, prosecution, jails, courts. You've torn lives apart. You've torn families apart. You've done more harm in your prohibition than what you were afraid of from the drug itself. And that's what needs to be adjusted here. That's what the nation is finally forcing to have happen. And thank God we didn't have a Christie type, because it would have been Mitt Romney. He'd have been all over marijuana prohibition if Romney had won back in 2008. If Mitt Romney were to occupy the shoes of President Obama, you would not see what's happening on the West States with marijuana legalization. It just wouldn't be going on because he'd be down there with paramilitary organizations, every police force he could muster, closing those places down with abundant fanfare. He'd make much news out of it, make as much hay as he could. This is why Congress needs to act before the next president comes into play. If you did get, and Christie doesn't have a fat chance, and I mean that pun, doesn't have a fat chance of becoming president. Partly now because of his opposition to marijuana legalization. Nope, enjoy your pot, you Colorado pot smokers. If you're getting high in Colorado, enjoy it while you can, because President Christie's going to come by and sweep it off the table and throw you back in jail like the jailbird you deserve to be. Mr. Christie, you don't know how to spend people's money right. You got the wrong focus. And we're going to fix this step by step by step by state, by election, by ballot petition, and get this done. Legalization is in full force.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.
You're not putting the genie back in that bottle. That's all I'm saying.